True performance starts within. Your mind is your most powerful asset, so why settle for anything less than clarity? Defeat brain fog, sharpen your focus, and unlock peak performance with Nectar Gold. Formulated with premium ingredients, tailored for high-performing men. Maximize your potential. Live in clarity. This is Nectar Gold. Yachting International Radio Podcast Disclaimer. This recording has been prepared by Yachting International Radio. These recordings are for informational purposes only and are not intended to provide financial, business, legal, accounting, or tax advice. The opinions expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Yachting International Radio, its affiliates, sponsors, or advertisers. Listeners are solely responsible for their own financial and investment decisions. We strongly recommend seeking independent financial advice before making any decisions regarding investments or business strategies. Opinions expressed are as of the date of recording and are subject to change. The views of any guest participants do not represent Yachting International Radio or its affiliates, and YIR, its directors, officers, or employees do not accept responsibility for them. The views, information, or opinions expressed in the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not constitute absolute facts or guarantees of future performance. Each podcast episode is not intended to be relied upon as financial research, professional advice, or a solicitation to buy, sell, or subscribe to any financial instruments or services. It should not be interpreted as a recommendation to adopt any specific business or financial strategy. This podcast may feature guest speakers or advertisers who share insights, information, or excerpts from third-party copyrighted material. Yachting International Radio does not accept liability for the choice of guests or advertisers to convey such information, nor does it assume responsibility for any copyright or intellectual property rights infringements by its guests. The information and opinions contained in these recordings are derived from various sources deemed reliable by the host but are not guaranteed for accuracy, completeness, usefulness, or timeliness. Any reliance upon this podcast is strictly at your own risk, and Yachting International Radio, its hosts, advertisers, or contributors will not be liable for any losses, damages, or decisions made based on the content of this podcast. If a specific financial product or investment opportunity is mentioned, the information provided in the episode does not disclose all risks and details. It should not be interpreted as advice regarding the suitability of any product or service. Please carefully review and understand the product's objectives, risks, charges, and terms and conditions before making any financial decisions. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge and agree to this disclaimer.
Welcome to the grand opening of the Rich as Fuck podcast, the show where we talk about money, investing, and getting financially free whilst doing this yachty life. I'm Charl Minnaar, aka the Yachting Investor, and this is not just another boring finance podcast. This is for yachties by a yachty. So pop in those AirPods, grab a squeegee or a vacuum, and join me in navigating your path to financial independence. Today, I have the honor of having Captain Scott Kidd, aka the Yachty Real Estate Investor, on me. Welcome to the inaugural episode, good sir, and thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for letting me be the first one. I really appreciate being here. This is going to be the start of something great. I think it's going to just take off. I think it's going to be a lot of fun too.
I hope so. Let's learn and grow. So for those listening, Scott and I have been in touch for a few years now, 3 to 4 years. I've been checking out his work on Yachty Real Estate Investors. Since I started the Yachting Investor, he's been very, very helpful and instrumental in showing me certain things, how to go about the business side of things and curating content, etc. So just off the bat, thank you for everything you do for the community and how you've helped me. And super stoked that you can be here for episode 1. So
you're welcome. You're welcome. Like I said, this is only the beginning. We're just getting started, man. This is start of something great.
There we go. Well, we won't be too scripted today, but just to give the listeners some background, how did you get into the yachting industry?
Well, for me, I kind of started out because I needed a job. I kind of fell into it as a lot of people do. Had lost that year. I had lost my business. I had lost that laid off from my tech job. The tech business. I was back in Jamaica, which originally from my dad's Jamaican, mom's American. And I was back there, and a friend of a friend asked if I wanted to work on a yacht for the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show. And I said, well, I don't know anything about working on a boat. Is that okay? And he said, yeah, just get here. And so I borrowed the money for the plane ticket and borrowed some money from my good friend Merrick. And I landed with about $20. I didn't know if this deal was going to work out or not, or didn't really know anybody in Fort Lauderdale, but ended up becoming a passion of mine. And I never looked back. I planned on going back to Jamaica to live, but that hasn't happened yet. And it's now 25 years later.
Oh, wow. Well, what a way to disclose your age there. That's good going,
Yeah.
eh? It's crazy how a small decision like that can literally transform your life. So that's pretty epic. And truly something amazing about this industry where it opens so many doors that you didn't even anticipate initially. So, that's amazing.
That's very true. I mean, what was a tumultuous year, probably at the time it didn't seem all that great, but once it ended, in getting on the boats and stuff, I didn't even know this could be a career. I didn't, let alone a job, and it just kept getting better and better.
That's amazing. And then during,
what happened there?
oh, he's back.
Sorry. He's back.
No, you're good. I was like, oh God, do I have to restart all this? So then, okay, you've been in yachting for 2.5 decades. And when did you start moving into real estate and kind of branching out from just being a yachty?
Well, I'd always done some kind of side hustle. As you know, it's a volatile industry. It's fickle, here today, gone today, from hero to zero, and all in the same day. So I always had some kind of backup plan, some kind of side hustle, some kind of business. Some of them did okay, some of them didn't do very well. But the real estate stuff started. When I got married, had kids, our family got bigger, moved to a bigger house. We rented that one, and my intention initially was, hey, I'll keep buying a house we'll keep buying a house every so often, and then once we get to about 10 or so, that'll be kind of a retirement. We had our 529s for the kids' education, and we had
Amazing
Roth IRAs and stuff like that for life insurance and all those things. That a good friend of mine that was a financial advisor, he set up all those things for me through his insurance agency, and it just kind of slowly got bigger and bigger. And to get into the commercial real estate and stuff, it started with I was having drinks with a friend on the beach and in Fort Lauderdale, and he told me that he had bought and sold a 46 unit in Fort Lauderdale, in Houston, and he'd made in the 7 figures of profit, him and his brother. And I said, well, you can do that? And he said, well, yeah, you can do it. I did it, and anybody can do it. At the point we're there having drinks on the beach, and he said, yeah, anybody can do it. So that was kind of my light bulb moment. That was about 5 or so years ago, and it I just kind of started to had me take a hard look at real estate, all the possibilities and potential and options that you can have, because it's not just you can do single family houses, and you can do great. You can do any kind of, there's so many different ways to do it, but I just saw it as an opportunity to scale up and continue my career on the boats, and have something on the side where I can be a part of a team. And because on the boats we are a team, we're a crew, and we don't that's what makes or breaks us. And it's the same thing in the commercial real estate world, and in real estate in general, and any business, you have to build a team.
Amazing. And just to get back there onto the family, often yachting doesn't have the greatest reputation because of what a lack of balance it provides to some of our lives. But how have you managed to navigate those challenges and keeping balance between having a family, doing yachting, as well as doing all of these side endeavors?
Well, I think it's, you have to be present with whatever you're doing and whoever you're around. But, it comes from, my wife, she's a great partner. And just, without her, none of this would be happening really, because, you know, she's just a great partner, and we support each other. And she used to work on boats, and she's also a yacht charter broker. And she knows, she understands. It doesn't make it any easier, but I think just in society in general, Western society in general, there's not as much stress placed on the family. But I always ask the question, whatever I was doing on the yachts or business, is this going to be good for the family? Is this going to be, and that's where you have to, people say family first and stuff like that, but, they're working 20 hours a day and stuff like that when they're kind of really neglecting their family and stuff, and the family kind of falls apart because they're not spending the time. And I've been through those struggles too, because being away for long durations of time, it can be tough on the family, and it's something that people always bring up, that it's tough, very tough on the women, that, it's being away and they have to manage the household and everything. But it's also tough on us men as well, because, we miss our families. We want to be there. We've missed so many, just being on the yachts and stuff. We've missed countless holidays, birthdays. It makes it easier with WhatsApp and Skype and all those things, but it doesn't surpass, actually being there. So when we're with the family and together, that's what we focus on, be present.
That's very sound advice. And yeah, I get what you mean. I guess you'd rather be at home managing your own kids than managing 3 drunk deckhands as a captain.
Yeah. And sometimes it's more than just the deckhands; it's also the guests.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's extremely good advice of being present. And I think a lot of the times in this day and age, all of that talk by certain men gets referred to as mumbo jumbo talk.
Yeah.
There's really a lot to it about wherever you are, just engage with what you're busy with, and not only will it make the time pass quicker, but everything will be done with a lot more quality. So that's a really good point.
You really have to focus on what you're doing. Our careers are quite unique, but I see it in similar other industries, where I have friends that are in sales and, corporate world, and they're gone, they travel quite a lot too, and they work heavy hours. Mm-hmm. And that's very stressful on the family, especially when you come home. If you're stressed out, the rest of the family feels it, so you have to kind of be able to put things aside, and I'm no saint when it comes to a lot of that stuff. So a lot of times I have a tendency to be very obsessive compulsive. Whatever I'm doing, I'm the ready, fire, aim guy. I go straight out, and then I think about it later. And sometimes there's a lot of collateral damage that, as I've gotten older, I've learned that, well, maybe have to stop for a second, take a look at, hey, is this going to be the best decision for all of us?
Yeah, it's great advice. And in terms of the Yachty Real Estate Investor, can you tell us a bit about what you're doing there? Like, what is the community? Like, just for someone that hasn't heard about this.
Well, it originally started because, as I told you before we came on, and before I've told you this story before, that when I wanted to find out about the multifamily and commercial real estate, I just I didn't know where to turn, so I started looking at meetups and stuff, and I went to quite a few of them, and they were always just trying to sell you something and funnel you to the back of the room, and buy my coaching program, buy my books, buy my recordings, book a call with me, and all these things that are just, I didn't learn anything from it. I didn't meet anybody, but so I just kept going, and I finally met at a meetup where I met, actually later on would be a partner, and it was just people sitting around talking about real estate, talking about what they're doing, talking about their families, and kind of helping each other. And I said, well, this is great. I can do this. And I learned a lot. And then I met, like I said, I met one of my partners, and we're still partners today. And she's, a great person. She's, she does very well for herself and is just a great person, helps a lot of people. And so I said, well, since I didn't know a lot about these things, there's probably a lot of other people on the yachts that are in the similar place. And like yourself, we've had this discussion where you said, you'd hate for people to be 10 years in the industry and then walk away with nothing. And that bothers me as well, because there's so many options that, a lot of times you don't know what you don't know. So I said, well, let me just start it. And actually we started meeting, once a month. And then it was just for a place. There's no soliciting. People just kind of come and network and talk about real estate and business and how we can help each other. And, it's just true networking. If you want to talk about what you're actually doing, or, you can do that later if you have your properties and you want to solicit something. It's not the place for it, but it's more just to grow together. And eventually, I met more partners, Bobby Sharma and Eric Greenstein, where they're on Like-Minded is their group, and they're going nationwide, and we're in multiple cities in Florida. And it's mainly just provides a place for education and networking where we can all help each other grow. And it's every type of real estate, from novice to expert, whether it's a single family rental, self-storage, short-term rentals, commercial, land. We have the gambit of people that come, and, it's open, and people can always reach out to me if they want to find out more, or they need, if they need help with anything. That's because I didn't know where to turn. So I offer that assistance to everyone else, because it's a lot of times you just need that person to tell you that you can do it.
That's great stuff. And I can personally attest that your meetups that you host in and around Florida, which I've attended, is really, like, it's very engaging, and people are not people are not selling you bullshit there. I think they quickly get sent packing when that's the case.
Yeah, that's not acceptable.
We spoke about this pre-recording, but it's so nice, and it's a lot more of a natural process, and you're actually talking first to someone about what their name is and where they're from, and if they have a family, and then you go into the nuts and bolts of business and potential synergy opportunities. So good on you for doing that. It was
well, thank you. It's people want to invest and be around people that they want to invest with people that they like. You don't want to do business with people that you don't like. We've all been on those boats that we didn't like, and we didn't want to be there. We didn't want to work there. So why not invest with people that you don't have to be friends, but you do have to be in alignment.
For sure. And then Yachty specific, why do you think is the reason that Yachties don't invest and have this strange money psychology about spending more than what you make?
Well, I think that's just prevalent in society in general, especially with social media. You see, it's a very material world for a lot of people, and they want to keep up with the Joneses, and they want to have all these things. And, a lot of people come from places where they may not have had a lot of these things. And then they're going from zero to everything. You see it in athletes, you see it in, people who win the lottery, people that have also made it big. Financial education and, financial well-being is not very prevalent. It's not taught in school. It's something, I was fortunate enough that, my parents had their own businesses and stuff. And my dad worked for Price Waterhouse in Jamaica, and he was an accountant there. And that's why he did very well in business. And, we grew up having to know about, having to work and then, knowing how to save money and stuff like that. But, as far as the investing and stuff, unless you go to school specifically for these financial instruments, you're not accepted. You're not exposed to these things. And it's very important. We don't necessarily need to know about these financial instruments. We just need to know, one, how money works, and one, a lot of people that I've met on the boats and otherwise, they don't know how to balance a checkbook. They don't even know what a checkbook is because nobody uses checkbook anymore. So that's dating myself as well.
Yeah, well done. You did that to yourself, buddy.
Well, I don't care. You're only old when you're dead. So,
That's
it. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but it's very true what you say there, and it's kind of like, and I mean, this has been happening for centuries, where the banks and the financial institutions, they're kind of like gatekeeping all the secrets, but there's no secrets. Like it's as simple as getting started with investing $50 into a simple instrument like a low cost index fund. So it's just, unfortunately, and you and I know it, like we work in a very sexy industry, and it's tiny boats and it's guests in bikinis and it's caviar on the beach. So when you talk to someone about, hey, why aren't you investing 40% of your paycheck in the S&P 500? They're like, shut up. Like it's it's unsexy. So
that's definitely true, but, and a lot of times it's people want to do all or nothing. They just figure they'll hit a home run. They want the home run, the instant gratification, but investing in life doesn't really work that way. I didn't get to be a captain overnight. I didn't get to, buy real estate overnight. I made a lot of mistakes, but you have to get in there and do it. It's the same thing. Everybody wants the reward, but they don't want the risk. And in Jamaica, we have a saying, everybody wants to raid the barn, but nobody wants to plant the corn.
Yeah, I get that. And I also think a big part of it is in the current social media age, and how quickly information travels. You open your Instagram and you saw someone just made $1 million on some crypto meme coin called Fartcoin. And then if you tell them, oh yeah, but you will achieve that too, you just have to wait for it to compound over 20 years. They're like, oh, no, that doesn't sound fun at all. But you're like, well, that way it's pretty foolproof, and it's not just hammering your life savings into a meme coin with no underlying utility,
What I can express to young people are younger than me, is that, the time's going to go by anyway. You don't want to turn around and be, oh, man, I should have, could have. You're going to regret more the things you didn't do than the things that you did do. I mean, at least if, that's a lot of the reason why I do what I do, is just because, time is our most valuable asset. And, I want my family and my kids and everybody to, hey, at least the old man took a swing at it. He took a shot at it, And then that just means hopefully that they'll take a swing at it. At their age, they'll just go for it, because you get so focused on one thing and you go straight at it, there's probably not going to be anything stopping you.
Yeah, that was pretty. I just got chills there, Scott. Nice one. Like the old man definitely swung for the edges.
Yeah.
And then kind of to segue on that is what would your advice be for a yachty to get started?
To get started, well, first, number one is don't go blow all your money at the bar or wherever it is. Put your money, put your money ahead. There's always that old adage: take the money and take it out of your hands. So take it and make sure you have 6 months of savings, whatever your bills are. You probably don't have much bills, but think about it as, well, if I leave this boat, I'm going to need a place to live. I'm going to need to eat. I'm going to probably need a car and stuff like that, phone and all that stuff, find a job or whatever else your next thing is. Get 6 months of that expenses, put it away and leave it. And just leave that in some kind of savings account, or just an account where you don't really have access to it unless you need it. And that'd be your emergency rainy day fund. And then, start looking at, potentially a retirement or some type of investment. Maybe a good friend of mine, the same one that set up all my stuff, he said the best advice, some of the best advice I ever got was always have a time and a purpose for any money if it's your vacation money, okay, in 1 year, I'm going to go to Bali. So then you're going to put aside a certain amount every month for that. If it's your retirement money, okay, maybe 30-year money. You're going to treat that a little bit differently because you're going to probably set up like a Roth IRA or something like that. You put a certain amount of money, and you might look at it once every 6 months or every year, but it's 30-year money that you never touch. Then, you can do other things. There's life insurance. There's, if you're going to save up for a house, hey, I'm going to need a down payment. There's things right now as a first-time home buyer, you can put down 3 to 5%. But once you buy the house and get the mortgage, then you're going to want to relook at your emergency funds, because you're like, okay, I'm going to need 6 months of the mortgage payment, including the bills for the house, unless it's rented out. But then you're going to want to reevaluate every 6 months or every year on what your plan is. Everyone is different. And if you're planning to, hey, substitute your income, you're going to need to work your way back from that goal. Like 10 years, I want to have X amount of houses or properties or have X amount coming in. Then it's going to be, okay, if I need to have 5,000 a month, I'm going to need probably 500,000 in an account, making 10%. Just these are just ballpark figures or what have you. So you do that. So you want to work to that stage, work back from that goal. It takes, for me, it was a lot harder figuring out what the actual goal was, but getting started was even harder because, a lot of people don't realize that 20 years will go by so fast. But the emergency fund, especially working on the yachts, the job will go away today, tomorrow. It's not a question of if, it's when. So you need that 6 months, and then start looking at the investments and stuff. There's a range. Just always keep like yourself, keep on top of all the new trends. Read, study, just learn as much as you can about all financial instruments.
That's great advice. And I really like the sequence, what you mentioned things, because at the Yachting Investor, what I write in my newsletters is what I call the 7 steps, or your standard operating procedures for personal finance. Number 1 of which is set clear goals, which you mentioned, know what purpose your money is for. And number 2, build an emergency fund. Number 3, pay off bad debt.
Yes.
Number 4, get your savings into a high interest bearing or high yield savings account. Number 5, hyper accumulate. So whatever you can start to not use, get that deployed so your money works hard for you while you work hard for your money. And then number 6, just automate everything. Yeah. I think a big psychology part of it
goes away. So make sure it goes away. Just, because then you get used to living off a smaller amount, and then you don't necessarily go out and buy all that stuff you don't need.
It's very true, and it's sorry to interrupt you, but it's very frictionless that way too, because within 2 or 3 months of doing that, it is a habit. I've been doing that since I was a deckhand in Spain 5 years ago. I know 70% of my salary gets sent to my brokerage account before it even touches my bank account. That's just how I have been set up. So that way, you're just not tempted. If I am at a beach club or a bar or in a fancy shop in Monaco, I'm like, oh, even if I want to buy a pair of shoes that I don't need, I can't, because I literally don't have enough cash. So being cash broke and portfolio rich is something that I value a lot. And, I don't feel bad for not being able to pay for my friend's bottle service because it's down.
No, because at a certain point when you have something come up, you say, hey, it's my friend's wedding. I want to get them a really good gift. You're like, okay, I can spend this amount and the money's there. And, you're not leveraging your stuff, but, debt, there's a difference between debt and leverage. Leverage we use a lot in business and real estate. There's good leverage. If you're buying a property as an investment, and say you buy it for, $1 million and you have 800,000 of debt, and the renters or the tenants are paying for that mortgage, and then you're getting a few thousand on top of that, then that's good leverage. But if you're using your credit cards to just buy a whole world of things that you don't need, then you're paying probably 20% interest where you're not making any money. You're losing. You've already paid for those things, and you're continuing to pay for these things until the money's gone. You're kind of just staying on that rat race, and it's surprising to me because I know people that make a lot of money, but they're living paycheck to paycheck. They might be making hundreds of thousands, even millions a year, but they have the big mortgage, all the houses, kids in private school. They have that financial creep where everything just keeps going up and up and up.
Yeah.
And they keep spending more and more and more. And it's, because we've had these guys on the charter boats, and the first captain that I worked for, a lot of times when they came on the boat, we'd take all their cell phones and they'd put them in a thing, and they'd get, oh, but I need to make a call. And be like, no, we're locked away. We can't really get it right now. And then, after the first day or so, they were just so relaxed. They were like, they weren't like, they didn't care. They're like, I'll get to it later. It's not
Yeah. A lot less things is as urgent as you think it is at that moment.
Yeah, because there's that saying, don't get caught up in the busyness, get caught up in the business. Do the business, don't get caught up in the busyness, because we can all find a bunch of stuff for us to do, but we may not have accomplished anything at the end of the day.
That's a badass quote. I might just do that on my chest over here.
Yeah, maybe on the forehead. Face tattoos, because those are good for your overall image.
Yeah. You'll definitely get a job on a boat.
The job stopper. I do not want to get employed.
Yeah. No judgment on the rappers.
If anybody wants to get a facial tattoo, that's up to you. And you just gotta be ready for everything that comes with it. That's all.
Exactly. And also, if you're Mike Tyson, you can do it because he can knock out.
Yeah, nobody's gonna say it. Nobody's gonna say it looks terrible.
Exactly. And then finally, Scott, as both of us are quite big consumers of information and knowledge, what are some books that you've recently been reading, or podcasts, or any type of advice you can pop off to aspiring yachting investors?
There's the book that I love, especially about investing in commercial real estate, is The Hands-Off Investor by Brian Burke, because it's helped me, because I deal with investors and stuff. It helped me. It's for a passive investor that wants to invest in syndications, and it really goes through and makes you realize again and again that it's about the investor. It's not about what you have, it's about what they need. And then there's another book called The Go-Giver, which it goes into, like, if you really want to be successful, you have to give first and give. If you give more, you're going to get more, and just how it goes. You get to success by giving to other people, creating value. It's a short book. It's a great book, and I forget the author, but that one is really good. And also, if you want to know more about real estate in general, there's Bigger Pockets is really good. There's a guy, Tim Bratz, I follow a lot. He talks a lot about real estate, and his stuff is really good as well. And then there's also another podcast is Neil Bawa. He goes into a lot of the data and stuff, and I kind of nerd out on that stuff, but it might be very dry for a lot of other people, but I really like it because he makes predictions based on it, and sometimes he's right, sometimes he's wrong. And what I like about him is when he's wrong, he says, hey, I was off on this one, but I was partially correct. And not a lot of people do that. They don't own up to their mistakes and stuff. And that really resonated with me, because he's always, it means he's trying to get better. He's working on it. He's even though he's really great already, he's getting and still wants to get further.
Amazing. And then just for us to sign off, how can people listening to this podcast get a hold of you, get connected? Plug yourself.
It's pretty easy. It's investwithscottkidd.com, and I have all my social media links, my podcast, the the Yacht Captain Investor is there as well. And all the other podcasts I've been on, properties we're involved with, preferred partners, everything is there, social media. It's the easiest way.
Great stuff. Well, I look forward to our next meetup in person again. And thanks for coming on to the Rich as Fuck podcast. I'm not sure yet if I'm allowed to swear on this channel, but I am.
You can do what you want until somebody tells you otherwise. That's how it works.
There we go. And no, I've never been one to ask for permission. I apologize profusely.
Yeah, it's some they'll cancel you. I'll be canceled one day anyway. It'll be fine. Whatever.
Oh well.
Well, thanks so much.
Thanks again
for having me on. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate it.
Cheers, man. Have a good one.